1 second. Right, I believe we have some footage that has been taken on a mobile phone.
A tourist was flying his drone along the Irish coast, trying to get some nice sunset photos. What he recorded that day would turn into one of the strangest mysteries anyone has ever seen. The footage shows a massive stone slab, weighing about 20 tons, slowly pushing outward from a cliff wall. It moved like a door opening. Behind it was complete darkness. The whole thing lasted exactly 11 seconds. Then the stone slid back into place so perfectly that you couldn't even see a crack afterward. The man who filmed this is a 34-year-old electrician from Dublin. He wasn't looking for anything unusual. He just wanted pretty pictures. Instead, he captured something that shouldn't exist. He posted the video online, and within hours, scientists were calling him. They wanted to know if it was real or fake. One expert who has spent 15 years studying that coastline told him his footage either broke every rule of geology or was the best hoax in history. This happened at a place called the Giant's Causeway. It's a famous tourist spot in Northern Ireland, where the entire shoreline is made of thousands of black stone columns. They're all perfectly shaped like hexagons, almost like a giant honeycomb made of rock. For hundreds of years, people believed these stones formed during a massive volcanic eruption. Scientists say hot lava filled the valley until it was over 300 feet deep. The temperature reached more than 2,000 degrees. When lava usually cools down, it just becomes solid rock. But here, something different happened. The cooling process created 40,000 interlocking columns that looked like they were carved by hand. Nobody ever suspected there might be hidden spaces inside these cliffs. No ancient legend ever mentioned a secret door. No survey or scan had ever found anything hollow in there. But the drone footage was real, and the scientist who saw it knew she had to investigate. If you're ready to see what that 11-second opening revealed, hit like and subscribe right now, because this mystery only gets deeper. What the radar found. The researcher grabbed her ground-penetrating radar equipment and rushed to the site. She's a top geologist who knows these rocks better than almost anyone alive. She set up her equipment and started scanning the cliff where the door had opened. What appeared on her screen made her stop and stare for almost 2 minutes without saying a word. The radar showed a massive hollow chamber hidden inside the solid rock. The room was 12 feet deep and 26 feet wide. That alone was shocking enough. But what was inside that room was even worse. The sonar detected 7 tall figures standing upright in the darkness. Each one measured between 7 and 8 feet tall. That's much bigger than any human who lived in Ireland thousands of years ago. These figures were positioned in a perfect military formation, standing exactly 4.5 feet apart from each other. They were all facing the door. Here's what made this discovery absolutely terrifying. Basalt rock doesn't just form around standing objects. The only way these figures could be inside the stone is if they were already there when the lava was still liquid, and that means they've been trapped in there for at least 60 million years. Humans didn't even exist 60 million years ago. Dinosaurs were still dying out. Whatever these things are, they were here long before us. The figures aren't solid stone. Another scientist arrived the next day with even better scanning equipment. He's a geophysicist from Belfast who specializes in reading underground structures. When he started his work, he looked calm and professional. 20 minutes later, his hands were shaking so badly he had to put down his tablet. His more detailed scan revealed something that made everything worse. The 7 figures weren't made of solid rock. They were hollow shells with thin outer layers. It looked like something had once been living inside them. Or maybe something was still inside, waiting. The material of these shells didn't make sense either. Whatever they're made of shouldn't have survived the heat of molten lava. Nothing organic can withstand 2,000-degree temperatures. Yet somehow, these shells existed inside rock that had been liquid fire 60 million years ago. Within 48 hours, government agencies were notified. That's when the real strangeness began. A team from an official environment agency showed up and made a public statement. They said the drone footage was just a trick of light and shadows. They insisted there was no hidden room and told everyone to stop worrying about it. But here's the problem. Their lead consultant refused to sign that official report. Witnesses say she looked at the sonar data, turned completely pale, and quit her job the very next week. Her resignation letter simply said she had seen enough. The agency quickly blocked off the entire area with barriers and warning signs. They claimed it was for safety reasons due to erosion, but everyone involved knew the truth. They were hiding something. One of them disappeared. Before the scientists were forced to leave, one researcher managed to sneak back to the site 4 days after the first scan. She wanted to compare new data with the original results. It's a standard procedure in any investigation. She expected everything to be exactly the same. But when the new image appeared on her screen, her heart nearly stopped. One of the figures was gone. Only 6 remained. The stone door had not opened even once since that first event. The electrician had set up a motion-activated camera pointed directly at the rock. It had been recording constantly. The footage showed absolutely no movement on the outside. The door stayed sealed the entire time. Yet somehow, inside that locked chamber, one of those 7-foot-tall beings had simply vanished. There was no dust, no debris, no tunnel, and no sign of where it went. It was as if the thing had walked straight through solid basalt walls. The researchers couldn't explain it. How could something move through stone without leaving any trace? Was there a secret passage the radar couldn't detect? Or could these things pass through solid matter? They're warm, and they have heartbeats. Another scientist arrived from a different city to run thermal imaging tests. She wanted to check if there was any volcanic heat or underground water that could explain the strange readings. It was a freezing morning in March. The outside air temperature was only 39 degrees. The rocks on the cliff face were just as cold, which made perfect sense for Irish weather. But when she pointed her thermal camera at the hidden chamber, the screen lit up with bright orange and red colors. Inside that sealed room, the 6 remaining figures were glowing with heat. Their temperature reading was 99 degrees Fahrenheit. That's almost exactly the internal body temperature of a healthy human being. There is absolutely no way for rock to stay that warm for 60 million years, especially when it's surrounded by freezing ocean air and cold stone. Heat doesn't work like that. It dissipates. It fades away. The scientist actually asked her colleagues if they were playing a prank on her because the reading looked too perfect to be real. When she realized they were completely serious, she packed up her equipment and refused to answer emails for 3 weeks. The team also installed vibration sensors to listen to the rock. What they picked up was even more disturbing. A rhythmic pulse was coming from behind the wall. It repeated every 4.7 seconds. One of the scientists was very careful with his words, but he admitted it sounded exactly like a slow, steady heartbeat. The thermal signatures weren't constant either. Sometimes they would spike up to over 100 degrees for no apparent reason, then drop back down. These changes didn't match the ocean tides or the weather patterns. Whatever was causing the heat seemed to be coming from inside those hollow shells. They're moving toward the door. Every 72 hours, the team would run a new scan to monitor the chamber. What they discovered made the situation even more frightening. The 6 remaining figures were changing positions. They weren't jumping around or moving quickly, but they were shifting a few inches at a time. They were no longer standing in that perfect military formation. Now they were clustered together, moving steadily toward the sealed door. It looked like they were slowly waking up from a very long sleep, and they were preparing to leave. Think about that for a moment. These things have been trapped inside solid rock for 60 million years. They've outlived the dinosaurs. They survived continental drift, ice ages, and the rise of human civilization. And now, in our lifetime, they're starting to move. The government cover-up. Over 1 million people visit the Giant's Causeway every year. Families walk across those ancient black stones. They take selfies. They listen to tour guides tell fun stories about giants building bridges to Scotland. Those tourists have no idea what's really there. They don't know that just 39 feet behind the cliff face, hidden in the darkness, there are 6 massive entities radiating body heat into the cold stone. The government has worked incredibly hard to keep this secret. They've put up heavy barriers and bright yellow warning signs all around that specific section. If you ask a park ranger why that area is closed, they'll tell you it's because of falling rocks or unstable ground. They want everyone to think it's just a boring safety issue. But the real reason that spot is locked down is because of what the electrician discovered with his drone. One of the scientists tried to publish her findings. She spent months studying the heat signatures. She wrote a detailed report and submitted it to the official geological board. She believed the world deserved to know that something was alive inside the Earth. The board rejected her paper immediately. They told her that her equipment must be faulty and her methods were wrong. A friend who works on that board later called her in secret. He told her the real reason they said no. He explained that nobody wants to deal with the total chaos this news would cause. If the public learned that there were biological heat signatures trapped inside 60-million-year-old rock, it would destroy everything we know about history. Every science book would need to be rewritten. In April, all the monitoring equipment was quietly removed from the site. The scientists were warned to keep their mouths shut, or they would lose their careers and never work in their fields again. The evidence still exists. Even though the government tried to hide everything, they couldn't get rid of all the proof. The electrician still has his original drone footage saved on 3 different hard drives hidden in his house. The researchers who worked on the project also kept secret copies of the sonar data. That data is the most frightening part of this entire story. The last time they checked the sensors before they were removed, the 6 figures were still moving. They were still shifting and pulsing. The one closest to the door was only a few feet away from the entrance, and its rhythmic heartbeat was getting stronger every single day. Where is the 7th one? The mystery that keeps these researchers awake at night is simple and terrifying. When they first scanned the chamber, there were 7 figures. Now, there are only 6. One of them is already gone. If it escaped from that sealed room, where did it go? How did it get out? And more importantly, where is it now? It could be anywhere. It might be deep underwater in the cold Atlantic Ocean. It might be hidden in a dark cave along some unexplored section of the coast. Or it could be somewhere else entirely, walking through places humans have never been. The idea that one of these massive, ancient things is already out there, moving around in the darkness, is absolutely chilling. We might be watching a countdown that started millions of years ago. We like to think that humans are the first intelligent beings on this planet. We think we're in charge. We think the Earth belongs to us, but these figures prove we're wrong. Something else was here first. They existed long before the first human ever built a shelter or made a fire. They survived the cooling of the planet, massive volcanic eruptions, the shifting of entire continents, and the rise and fall of countless civilizations. For some unknown reason, they're choosing this exact moment in history to finally wake up. What happens next? The stone door has only opened once that we know of. But based on the movement patterns, based on the increasing heat signatures, and based on how close the figures are getting to the exit, many researchers believe it's going to open again soon. And when it does, those 6 beings will walk out into a world that has completely changed since they were last awake. What will they do? Where will they go? Are they dangerous? Are they intelligent? Do they remember what the Earth was like 60 million years ago? Nobody knows. And that's what makes this so terrifying. The ancient volcanic rock remembers things that we've forgotten. It holds secrets that predate human history, and it feels like that hidden vault is about to open for good. Once those doors swing wide, once those beings step out into the light, the world will never be the same again. We've been living on this planet thinking we were the first, thinking we were alone, thinking we understood our own history. But we were wrong. We're just guests on a planet that belonged to someone else first, and they're finally ready to come back. The question isn't whether they'll emerge. Based on all the data, that seems inevitable now. The question is what happens when they do. Are we ready to share our world with something that's been sleeping in the stone for 60 million years? Are we prepared to face beings that existed before mammals, before modern oceans, before the continents looked the way they do now? The scientists who studied this mystery can't stop thinking about it. Even though they've been silenced, even though their careers have been threatened, they know what they saw. They know what's coming. One researcher said something that stuck with everyone who heard it. She said, "We think of ancient history as something that's dead and buried, something we dig up and study. But what if ancient history isn't dead? What if it's just been sleeping? And what if it's about to wake up?" The stone door moved on its own once. The figures inside are warming up. They're shifting positions. They're gathering at the exit. Their heartbeats are getting stronger. Everything points to the same conclusion. They're preparing to leave their volcanic tomb. And when they do, humanity will have to accept a truth we never wanted to face. We are not the first. We have never been alone. And the real owners of this planet are about to reclaim what was always theirs.